Shakespeare in the Streets just keeps getting better and better. In this 4-year-old outreach program, Shakespeare Festival St. Louis sends a creative team to a local neighborhood to lead the residents in developing and performing an original script about the community within the framework of a play by Shakespeare. After hearing stories in Old North St. Louis, the festival picked Twelfth Night as the basis for The World Begun, whose title comes from the song that ends Shakespeare's play. The action in Twelfth Night is set up by a storm at sea and a shipwreck, which would be hard for some people to imagine in the Midwest, but not playwright Nancy Bell. At the start of The World Begun, Viola, the actual character from Twelfth Night, was transported from the original play to contemporary Old North St. Louis. She was metaphorically buffeted by the waves in a breathtaking sequence choreographed by Jennifer Medina and performed by Common Thread Contemporary Dance Company. Because Viola came from Shakespeare's world, Bell elegantly incorporated language from Twelfth Night into The World Begun. As Viola, Marlene Renee Covaillou was completely comfortable with the language and utterly endearing as well. Bell did not take it for granted, however, that the audience would automatically accept the fantastic elements of the plot, so she quelled doubts proactively. Instead of glossing over oddities such as Viola's unnecessarily disguising herself as a boy, the script called attention to them in a jocular way. Because we were being let in on the joke, we could laugh at the improbabilities of the script instead of worrying about them. The first person Viola encountered here was Mike, a history teacher, whose profession made him a useful source of information. What surprised me was his reason for coming on stage. He was chasing a robber. The scene was comic, but I was amazed that crime in the neighborhood was brought up so quickly. This turned out to be a shrewd decision on Bell's part. Because the script proved its honesty in dealing with the neighborhood's problems, it was easy to believe the characters when they spoke of the optimism, solidarity, and successes of residents working together to improve Old North St. Louis. Bell's shrewdest decision was turning Malvolio, the steward in Twelfth Night, into the neighborhood naysayer. Shakespeare's Malvolio objected to celebrating in general. Bell's Malvolio objected to celebrating the achievements of Old North St. Louis. I was 100% with the neighborhood backers who plotted to give this killjoy his comeuppance. They were a delightful crew. Lisa Tejero was Maria, the proprietor of La Mancha Coffee House. Richard Schicker, the real-life neighborhood police officer, portrayed the police officer in the play, Sir Toby Belch. Cara Overly was Sir Toby's friend, Sir Andrew Aguecheek. These characters strayed a bit from their Shakespearean counterparts, but Bell wasn't slavish about resemblances. She just did what worked. This was certainly the case in the updating of Feste, which focused on the clown's artistry with words. In portraying Feste, poet Christopher Ware was given welcome opportunities to display his own artistry. Another nice touch was turning Shakespeare's Antonio into a student whose fear of the police was explained by her not being in school. Tarika Queenie Smith and Anaya Wilson shared this role. Playing Malvolio must have been a labor of love for John Bratkowski, a fourth-generation resident of Old North St. Louis. His riotously funny wooing of Olivia capped off a brilliant interpretation. I was charmed by the performances of Erin Renee Roberts as Olivia, a podiatrist rather than a countess, Laud Gabriel as Orsino, a barber at Headhunters rather than a duke, Michael Cassidy Flynn as Viola's twin brother Sebastian, and Robert Greene as a patron of La Mancha. At the end of the play, Mike, the history teacher, once again considered the elements of the play that strained credibility in a wide-ranging speech that was deeply moving thanks to Bell's writing and Patrick Blindauer's delivery. Jacqueline Thompson's spirited direction incorporated a second-story window in the facade behind the stage. The show was ably supported by Mark Wilson's production design, Felia Davenport's costumes, Michael B. Perkins' sound, and Meg Brinkley's props. Production manager Tom Martin and stage manager Richard B. Agnew worked wonders with the outdoor location. Sadly, The World Begun ran for only one weekend. If you missed out on Shakespeare in the Streets this time, you just have to wait until next year when the festival team reaches out to Maplewood.
Yeah, it was it was a lovely evening, just the weather, but it was such a wonderful production, and the crowd was so much a part of it, so much going along with what was happening.
I certainly had a great time.